One day, we see a guy named Sato, the type of person whose mind never rests, constantly overthinking and carrying burdens before they even happen. Since he can't say no, he always takes on more than he can handle, just going along with everything saying, "Alright, fine." Today, he heads to work as usual and barely catches the train just before the doors close in his face. Standing there, struggling to catch his breath, he remembers his youth, when he used to run after buses like a maniac without his heart giving out. But now, approaching 30, even his knees are saying, "That's enough." Then, while counting the days of the week, he realizes it's Sunday and says, "Oh right, that's why public transport's crowded and schedules are off." He arrives at the office and bumps into his friend in the elevator, who's surprised and asks, "You're working on the weekend?" Sato replies, "Yeah man, the new employee messed everything up, and of course, no one's gonna clean up the mess but me. This company's got no one else, apparently." His friend says, "Dude, the game designs are a mess. They've gotta hire someone to help you out. At this rate, you won't even make it to 30. You look like their slave." Anyway, Sato sits at his desk, switches to burnout mode, and works like crazy until he literally starts sleeping at the office. One day, his cute coworker comes and says, "The new game, War World, is getting complaints. It's too hard for beginners. Got any ideas?" So Sato the genius says, "Look, if we make the game too easy, pros will be annoyed. But if we drop in the beginners with weapons, maps, and bombs, we'll make everyone happy." That brilliant idea gets approved right away, but who's left to implement it? Of course, Sato. His buddy dumps the task on him and leaves. Before he starts, Sato remembers another issue, so he passes it to his friend, asking him to fix another game because the client's rushing and won't stop nagging. After a brutal workday, the man remembers he's human and goes out for lunch alone, seeking peace away from the noisy office. He finds a little girl crying, asks what's wrong, and hears a bunch of gibberish, but then her mom shows up and says, "Thank you, sir." So he smiles and thinks, "Thank God she didn't think I was kidnapping her." Then he heads back to work, opens an old company game, and logs in. His friend, heading out, says, "I gotta go before my wife kills me. I'm already in hot water." Sato replies, "Must be nice to have someone waiting for you at home." His friend tells him, "If you like that, go get married and find yourself a nice girl. Start a life, man." That hit Sato hard. It was his second breakdown that day. Sato ends up sleeping in the office for the third night in a row, his eyes now panda-level dark. Despite the exhaustion, he works over 30 hours straight. When he's finally done, he lies on the floor and sleeps like a poor, tired child. But when he wakes up, he finds no desk, no computer. He's in a strange world and says, "Where am I? I must be dreaming." He pulls out his phone. It now looks tiny, like a high school kid's phone. But hey, in dreams, anything goes. As he walks through the area, he realizes it looks just like one of the company's games, especially War World RPG. And wouldn't you know it, the same bugs from the game are showing up in the dream. Even in his sleep, problems won't leave him alone. Curse whoever caused this. He opens the map and sees he landed in Dragon Valley. He spots signs of an enemy night raid and finds with him a map, a researcher, and 3 meteors, the same plan he had pitched back at the company. When the knights attack, he thinks they can't see him, but an arrow hits him in the face. He groans, "What kind of dream makes you feel pain?" Arrows rain down on him like a storm, and suddenly everything disappears except the meteors, which fall from the sky and wipe out the enemies. But one evil lizard survives, throws him a sword, and says, "Come on, let's fight like men." He grabs the sword, and suddenly Sato is fighting like a born warrior, as if the sword has always been in his hand. He defeats the lizard. His level jumps to 300. He pulls out water from his bag, drinks it, finds money and a legendary sword, and decides to start his adventure, saying, "Now this is real gameplay." Surprisingly, he's thrilled. Happiness floods him. He's playing again like a carefree young man. As night falls, he rests for a while and wakes up the next day, ready to explore this new world he stumbled into by chance. He visits countless magical locations, enchanted by their beauty and nature. Eventually, he arrives at a place called Warrior Fortress and opens the map to check the nearest city. The closest one now is Saloo City, so he flies above the fortress to get a view from the top, but a dragon attacks. He defends himself with a powerful strike that shakes the dragon and forces it to retreat. But the path the dragon takes leads to innocent soldiers, so he hurries after it to try and warn them before it attacks. But he's too late. The dragon reaches them first. The soldiers fire arrows that don't affect it, but the army sorceress casts deadly spells that bring it down. The soldiers rush to finish it off, but the dragon escapes by a miracle, flying quickly away, only to return to where Sato is, who just can't catch a break. The commander orders the sorceress, Zena, to stop the dragon fast before it flees. Zena conjures a wind spell and fires it at the dragon, but it backfires, launching her into the air. She starts falling from a high place, and when Saloo sees this, he plays the hero, flies in, and catches her before she hits the ground. And that, my friends, was the beginning of Saloo's journey in the new world. And gentle Saloo, after saving the sorceress, landed on the ground with her ever so smoothly. The girl was enchanted by him and his charisma, like she had just seen her dream prince in a TV commercial. She said, "I'm Zena, personal guard of Count Saloo, a sorceress in the army, 17 years old, and there's no one in my life." Her eyes sparkling as the atmosphere turned rosy. But before she could enjoy a full romantic moment, her friend Lilo stormed in, all fire and arrows, yelling, "Get away from my friend, you animal, or I'll set you on fire." Zena tried to calm things down, saying, "He saved me. This guy literally came out of the ground. Without him, I'd be dead now," with slow music playing in the background. But Lilo wasn't convinced. "I've seen tons of guys like this, and I know their type. This one's no hero, just another fireball con artist. Move or I'll burn both of you. I swear I'm not in the mood." So Saloo tries to defuse the drama, saying, "Calm down, ladies. I'm just a poor, harmless merchant passing by. Saw your friend falling and figured I'd help." "My bad, I guess." They snapped back. "Since when does a merchant walk around without goods, you idiot? Or wait, better not insult you or you'll sulk like a child." He replied, "Well, my horse ran off when it saw the meteors. Gets scared easily, unlike me." They said, "If you really saw the meteors, you'd have run away too, not toward where they landed." So Saloo kept up the act and said, "I was visiting my grandfather's grave near the fortress when the meteor hit. My horse bolted and I couldn't catch it." Zena said, "All right, show me your documents then." He told her, "They were in the cart with the horse. Gone now, honestly." In the end, she believed him and said, "Come with us, hero. We'll get you new papers in our city, Saloo, just nearby." He agreed immediately. He wasn't going to find a better opportunity. Once they arrived in the city, Zena said goodbye as she had important work, and he went with another girl named Iona to the office that issues IDs. They told him, "Place your hand on the mana stone," and Saloo thought, "Please let this go well." When he placed his hand, his old stats before his level up showed up, so they gave him a visa and entry permit. He breathed a sigh of relief, but the clerk warned, "If you get caught after 10 days without renewal, you'll pay a fine. And if you don't have the money, you'll be turned into a slave." Saloo thought, "Am I in a dream or what? Slavery's chasing me even here. Will I ever catch a break?" After that, he looked for a place to stay. Looking around, a little girl noticed he was new in town and dragged him by the hand into the inn where she and her mom lived. He booked a room there after seeing the prices were cheap and the place was nice. He said, "I'm starving," so the mom served him some leftover food. He began to feel like a real human again, eating and listening to stories. Her mom told him about cowardly merchants who fled when they found out the Beast King had allied with the dragons in Dragon Valley. When he asked about the king, she said, "If I remember right, the last time he was defeated was 70 years ago. No one's heard of him since." She added, "Don't worry, there are no dragons around here except for the weak wyvern kind. As for real dragons, they appear in far-off lands from my grandparents' days, and they're super lazy. They barely wake up." After eating, he asked the girl, Marsa, about a market to buy some things. She said, "I'll take you myself. I know this place well, better than someone scamming you." He agreed and went with her. At the market, he saw people mocking Beastkin and beating them. Saloo snapped and said to the bully, "What's your problem? Leave these people alone." The guy replied, "Why do you care?" Saloo said, "I care a lot. Back off before you see my bad side." The bully got scared and walked away. Saloo helped the kids, picked up the firewood they dropped, and began to see himself as a true hero, not just in the game. Then he continued shopping with Marsa, haggling with the vendors better than the locals themselves. By chance, a carriage full of girls passed by. One of them caught his eye, but the carriage flew off before he could get a good look. He returned to the inn and lay in bed, thinking about everything that had happened in the past few days, feeling a joy he hadn't felt in a long time. He thought, these characters and places would make an amazing game update when I'm back. But wait, how did I taste the food? Feel the blade strikes? Is this really a dream? There was no answer, so he decided to enjoy the new world and learn as much as he could, in case he returned and wanted to use this as a game developer. The next morning, Marsa woke him up and said, "Get up, man. Your girlfriend's waiting outside. Don't start playing hard to get all ready." He said, "Girlfriend? I don't know anyone here. I just got here yesterday, remember?" She replied, "Don't ask me. Go see for yourself." He went outside and saw Zena waiting for him. She said, "Wanna go out and explore the city with me? It's my day off today and I've got the whole day free." Saloo was relaxed and minding his own business, but Zena was determined to show him around the city, and he said, "All right then, fine," and they strolled around calmly. Zena tried to explain, saying, "I went out with with you today to thank you for what you did yesterday. And Sato chuckled, saying, you guys already thanked me so much I nearly got overloaded. You brought me to Saloo, gave me free residency. What more do I want? Maybe I should just stay here and let you take care of me. But as usual, Zena dodged the talk and said, let's get something to eat. And they actually went to buy some food, but suddenly a mischievous kid bumped into Zena and stained her favorite blouse, the one she got from her mom. Sato tried to calm her down, saying, don't worry, we'll find someone to clean it. It'll be better than new. But before he could finish, a drama-loving sorceress popped up and said, leave the cleaning to me. I'll make it shine with a cleaning spell. Sato was surprised and said, we were looking for a laundry, not a sorceress. But she didn't ask and pulled them aside like she was about to share a secret. And in a split second, the stain vanished as if it had never been there. They were both amazed and thanked the sorceress, who was glowing like she was in a detergent commercial. As they walked, Sato got into a philosophical mood and started asking, how does magic even work? And how do you use wind spells? Zena replied, I started learning 3 years ago, with some brains and effort, that's all. Then she teased him and asked, and what are you learning for? He said, the inn I'm staying at doesn't have bathrooms, and I like being clean, so magic's the solution. Either shower or die. The two were exploring the city when suddenly a woman stopped them on the street and asked, want some skincare cream? It's amazing. And kind-hearted Sato remembered the innkeeper whose hands were all dried out from work and thought, I'll buy 5 jars for the poor lady at the inn. Zena laughed and said, we've seen the whole city now. Any place else you want to visit? He said, take me somewhere I can see the whole city from above. Let me soak it in. So she took him to the city wall, a place meant only for soldiers, but Sato, of course, could go anywhere easily. He even managed to enter Zena's heart. Up there, he was really feeling it, the wind in his face like a Bollywood scene, and suddenly he spotted a windmill and asked Zena, what's that windmill for? What does it do? She replied, it's a mill, but if a wyvern attacks us, it turns into a defense battery. Wanna see? He said, let's go right now. On the way, she said, let's stop by the Balyan temple too. It's on the way. And there she showed him a statue of the hero and the beast king, and explained, the sword in that statue is magical. It only works when it glows blue. Sato asked, so if it doesn't glow blue with the hero, it's useless? She said, exactly, but it doesn't have to be the hero. Sometimes the sword chooses someone else. Suddenly, a girl appeared and startled them, saying, the one the sword chooses doesn't have to be a hero at all, or even a good person. And Zena said to Sato, that's Orna, the priestess and daughter of Count Saloo. My mom raised her. And suddenly someone called for Orna, and she waved goodbye and ran off. As they left the temple, Zena hailed a carriage to take them, while Sato stood aside checking the updates he'd received. He noticed that the meteors in his inventory could wipe out overpowered monsters from existence. He thought, wait, am I hacking the game or something? Then said to himself, nope, better keep quiet. I need to stay low-key so I don't become a target. Otherwise, this will all come crashing down on me. He hopped into the carriage with Zena, who took him on a little tour, showing him the defense tower. Any flying dragon or beast that passed over it would instantly be taken down by the weapons and magic installed on the wall. But about 40 years ago, a black dragon came and destroyed the entire tower. Saloo itself was devastated. Sato asked, did the hero show up and stop it? She replied, no, unfortunately not. Summoning the hero is done through magical rituals at the Epic Empire, and that attack came 60 years after the last Beast King assault. It was so sudden, no one had time to react. We simply couldn't manage to summon him in time. As they continued, they came across a large crowd gathered around a man giving a heated speech. His name was Leader Zalkin, and he was riling up the people, claiming that Beastkin were servants of the evil Beast King. He was convincing them to buy stones and hurl them at helpless slave children. And, as usual, the people, blinded by ignorance, believed him and started throwing rocks at the kids. But Zena couldn't bear the sight. She ran forward, stood in front of them, and shouted, what are you doing? These are children. For heaven's sake, you'll kill them. The leader responded, you must be one of the Beast King's followers too. Stone her as well. Ignorance gripped the crowd. Anyone who spoke out was seen as suspicious. They followed blindly like sheep. That's when Sato finally stepped in. He analyzed the situation swiftly and noticed that the man shouting wasn't the real leader. The real Zalkin was sitting off to the side, watching his assistant stir up the chaos. Zena quickly cast a wind barrier spell, shielding herself and the children. Sato flew toward the true leader, struck him, and hurled him into the center of the square in front of everyone. He addressed the crowd. This man tricked you. He told you those stones were sacred and had you throw them at innocent slave children. But instead of feeling guilty, the crowd got angry over the money they'd wasted. Some even accused Sato of being a liar, a fraud, and an ally of the Beast King. Suddenly, the leader lying on the ground transformed into a terrifying monster. Zena ran off to get reinforcements, while Sato tried to free the slaves, but they told him, we're chained by collars. collars. If we disobey the leader, the collars tighten and choke us. So he started breaking the collars himself. Zena returned with backup, but just as she arrived, the monster completed its transformation, captured everyone, and transported them to a strange, unknown location. It said, "Welcome to the Beast King's lair. You'll become the raw material for creating new monsters that will help us take over the world," and laughed his wicked laugh before vanishing. Saloo approached the slaves, whose condition would make even a stone weep. He asked for their names and realized they had none. So he said, "From now on, you're Tama, Bachi, and Liza," and gave them water, medicine, and clothes so they could live with dignity. Then he began analyzing the place, mapping out the entrances and exits. He found that Zena was in another room with the soldiers, so he decided to go to her first. Tama, Bachi, and Liza asked to go with him. He handed Liza a sword. She was the eldest and the only one with combat skills. He told them, "No one moves until I give the signal." He said to Bachi, "If you smell anything, let me know." And to Tama, "If you see anything, same thing." Suddenly, Bachi said, "I smell blood coming from far away. I think a monster is headed our way." Saloo warned them to stay still. Liza said, "We could try sneaking around the monster or ambushing it before reinforcements arrive. They'll be too late anyway." He agreed, and they attacked the beast. Liza retrieved its core and gave it to Saloo to sell later. He noticed her level increased the moment she absorbed the core. After defeating the first monster, they continued exploring the strange area. Saloo thought about boosting Tama and Bachi's levels too, so he ordered them to gather some stones and train by throwing them. Suddenly, they encountered another monster. Saloo pulled out a bullet and landed a shot to the head. The others threw stones. When the monster weakened, one of them stepped in and retrieved the core, slowly increasing their levels. But the real surprise came when a terrifying giant worm appeared, its eyes poking out from all directions. Saloo shouted, "Bachi, throw stones to distract it." But the poor girl froze in fear and ran off crying. Saloo didn't leave her behind. He took down the worm himself, then gently brought Bachi back and told her, "You have to return and retrieve the core yourself." She did, overcoming her fear and claiming the core. She felt guilty and apologized, but he told her, "It's all right, just don't let it happen again. Your life matters. I care about you." After a while, all their levels increased naturally. They began fighting monsters on their own without waiting for orders. They encountered rats, frogs, and all sorts of grotesque creatures, as if they'd entered a nightmare cave. When exhaustion hit them hard, Saloo finally noticed and said, "How about a little break?" They dropped to the ground from sheer fatigue. Saloo gathered them and made a luxurious meal for when they woke up, so they could taste real rest before continuing. They resumed their journey and Liza asked, "Can I start a fire and cook some frogs? I'm starving. It's my favorite dish." Saloo smiled and said, "All right, show me what you've got." He checked the map and told them, "We're almost out of here." After eating, they moved on and encountered a giant slime monster. Saloo shot it straight in the face, but the monster absorbed it like nothing happened. He checked its level. It was incredibly high. His bullet wasn't going to work. Liza, calm and composed, said, "No offense, but this one's not worth overthinking," and thrust her spear into the monster's core. It melted instantly. Saloo laughed and said, "Nice, you're finally using your brain." Suddenly, Bachi smelled blood again. She warned the group, and Saloo ordered everyone to stop. Out of the wall emerged a level 40 wolf, its eyes blazing red with fire. It lunged at Saloo with full force, but Saloo activated a devastating skill that flipped the monster onto the ground and swallowed it into a pit, like a literal hole from hell. They kept going and found people wrapped in spider webs, still alive. They freed them, and the first one turned out to be the son of a rich family who said, "If you get me out of here, I'll give you a reward you've never dreamed of." The second was a merchant also asking for help, but the third was the same bully who had yelled at the kids when Saloo first arrived in the city. He had just shouted at Bachi to give up her weapon. Saloo saw him and said, "You're selfish and a bully. You don't deserve help. Go find someone else to save you." And they left him and walked away. But then they found Zena and the soldiers being attacked by tons of slime monsters. The battle broke out, and everyone split up to help the soldiers. The surprise came when the bully managed to free himself, but then a monster attacked him, and he was helpless. Bachi and Thomas stepped in and took the monster down, leaving him stunned and ashamed that two little slave kids were the ones who saved him. Saloo rushed to free Zena, and as soon as she saw him, she lit up with joy and ran to him, but Orna said, "Can we save the romantic scene for later? We're still in prison." She asked Saloo to guide them out, feeling like he knew more about the monsters and the layout of the place. Zena asked him in shock, "How did you know the slime monster's weak point?" He replied, "Liza told me." She was shocked and said, "A girl? You were with a girl?" And Orna interrupted, saying, "Focus, please. This isn't the time for jealousy." The soldiers searched for an exit and tried to open a locked door, but Tama noticed a strange wall and told Sato, who discovered it was a hidden door. When he went to check, he saw the soldiers had opened a chest they thought was treasure. But the chest turned out to be a trap, and the monster that brought them here burst out. Things got heated instantly. As the monster emerged from the chest, Sato sensed danger for Tama, Bachi, and Liza, so he quickly put them to sleep and moved them aside, thinking to himself, I have to end this fast. The soldiers took position, putting Zena in the lead since she was the main sorceress. But the problem was their spells were too slow. The monster was 10 times faster. Every time someone tried casting, the monster struck them before they could finish, ruining the whole plan. Amid the chaos, the merchant whom Sato had saved earlier joined the battle and used all his fire magic, but the monster didn't even flinch. Sato quickly analyzed the situation and realized the monster had a magical protection spell on itself, and with each passing second, things were spiraling out of control. But that wasn't the real disaster. The real problem came when, from the darkness, a terrifying wolf appeared and attacked Sato, knocking him into a deep pit that dropped him into another room in the prison. But Sato wasn't just anyone. As soon as the monster got close, he pulled a sharp sword from his bag and sliced it in half in a second, then dashed back to the room where the battle was happening. Suddenly, a masked man appeared in the middle of the crowd and said, "Leave this monster to me. I'll handle it." Everyone stared in confusion, wondering who the show-off was, but the guy seemed legit. He picked up a rock from the ground and threw it at the monster, and shockingly, it worked. The monster actually started retreating. The rocks were affecting it, and it stepped back, one step at a time, visibly shaken. But just when everyone thought the battle was over, the monster laughed hysterically. And the real shock came as another monster emerged from underground. Not just any monster. This one looked like the Beast King himself. Huge, terrifying, and its level was sky high. Suddenly, everyone got blown in different directions, collapsing from fear. But right then, it was revealed that the masked man was Sato himself. He had been pretending to be a stranger to hide his power from them, but now things had gone too far. Everyone was about to die, and the monster acted like an unstoppable god. Sato dashed forward at lightning speed, sword drawn, and sliced the monster in half with one blow. Everyone froze in shock. The monster that had terrified them was gone in a single second. Finally, they escaped from the prison they'd been trapped in, and as usual, reinforcements arrived late, after everything was already over. Sato went to buy Liza, Bachi, and Tama, making them officially his slaves. Then the merchant brought out 2 more girls, one named Lulu, the other Arisa, and said, "What do you think? Wanna buy them too?" While Sato was sitting with the new slaves, he suddenly noticed something very strange. The 2 girls pronounced his name correctly, like actual Japanese speakers. Not just that, when he told one of them in Japanese, "There's a spider on your hair," she freaked out and screamed, "Get it off me," which meant she understood what he said. He stood up and asked himself, "Do I have a new skill or something?" But then he stayed quiet and said, "Never mind. Let's just buy the girls and move on like normal." He introduced them to the team, and Bachi, Tama, and Liza welcomed them warmly. Lulu and Arisa felt like they had just found a new home. Arisa told them she came from a rich family in a faraway city, while Lulu's appearance made it clear she had been a street orphan. Everyone clung to Sato's arms, literally, as they headed to the inn. Sato suggested, "How about we eat first before we rest?" And everyone agreed. But each girl had her own craving and wanted a specific dish on the table. So your guy Sato brought out a meal that turned the place upside down. Every type of food imaginable. Their eyes sparkled and their tails wagged from joy. They devoured everything and even licked the plates clean. Sato was happy to see them finally bonding and functioning as a team. He said, "Keep eating. I'll step out to buy a few things." The girls whined that they wanted to come with him, but he told them, "No, just rest. I'll be right back, just getting some stuff." He went out and bought them clothes that would make them look like royalty in public. When he returned to the inn, the innkeeper welcomed him like a king and said, "Your room's exactly as you left it. No one touched a thing." He asked her, "Do you have a room for the girls?" She replied, "Sorry, the inn's completely full. Not a single room available." Then Arisa suggested, "We could sleep in the stable." Sato thought about it and said, "Actually, not a bad idea." He asked the innkeeper and she told him, "The stable's empty, and so is the rooftop if you prefer." Sato prepared the place himself and told them, "If you need anything, just call for me. I'll come running." The next morning, he woke up early because Zena was coming to see him. He took her out for a walk, and it was clear he had started to like her. But the moment he saw Arisa, he remembered the story she told him the night before, how she was a princess whose kingdom had been destroyed. Her father, the king, was executed, and she escaped with Lulu. Then they were caught by a slave trader, and had been living like that ever since. Sato felt his heart break. He handed her her a bag of money and said, "Take the girls and go buy whatever you want." The girl was overjoyed and thanked him, but the happiest of all was Zena. Seeing his kindness made her admire him even more. Zena asked him, "What were you planning to do today?" He replied, "I want to find the girls a cleaner place to sleep than the stable. I feel bad for them." She said, "Want me to help?" He replied, "Let's go. I needed someone to keep me company anyway." They went looking for a place, and the girl working at the agency told him, "Why don't you rent a house and settle instead of hopping between inns?" He agreed, but once she found out he had beast kin with him, she took him on a tour of several houses. One was shady, another filled with negative energy, and another was so small it felt like a coffin. The girl got tired and annoyed, so he said, "Look, I'll stop by tonight. Just have a place ready for me." She was thrilled and agreed immediately. Instead of heading back to the inn, he turned to Zena and said, "Let's go out somewhere and refresh a bit." Nadi stepped in and told them, "There's a new market that just opened. You might like it," then winked at Zena and added, "Let me know if you need anything." The market was indeed impressive, and the girls saw Sato and ran over excitedly to show off their new looks, new hair, and new clothes. They were all super happy. Sato found a man selling cards that helped with reading, so he bought a few so the girls could learn. Then the girls started begging him to take them to a performance in the square, and of course Sato couldn't say no, so he agreed. But he went to apologize to Zena first since the girls would be joining him for the show. She kindly said, "It's okay, no problem." He gave Liza the money to go buy the tickets. Still wanting to make it up to Zena, he went to buy her a gift, and Arisa showed up, clinging to him, so he ended up buying her something too. Then they all went to watch the show together. The performance began, but all the girls literally fell asleep. Even Liza, who was always alert, got distracted by the smell of food. Sato felt like he wasted a romantic moment with Zena and got stuck with the girls for nothing. Meanwhile, Zena was focused on the story. A sorcerer falls in love with a princess. Her evil fiancé gets in the way. The sorcerer dies but is reborn and seeks revenge on the fiancé, shakes the kingdom, but in the end, dies again at the hands of a mysterious knight. The show ended, and Sato wandered a bit afterward. The girls came out crying from the sad ending. Zena and Arisa got into a heated argument about the play's ending. Sato stepped in to calm things down and got Arisa to apologize, then made peace by treating them to food. Liza went to buy it. Zena met up with her unit and told them they had gotten crushed earlier by a swarm of giant flies that had crossed the kingdom's border. At that moment, Tama and Bachi caught a giant fly and threw it in front of Sato. He analyzed it and discovered a disaster in the making. A massive swarm of flies was heading to the city. Sato didn't waste time. He quickly assigned the team. Some would guard the inn, others would fight with him. Sure enough, the swarm arrived early. The city wall took down many of them, but others broke through, and the guards formed ranks. The hunt and battle began, each group taking position, but disaster struck when a few flies got into Nadi's shop. Sato saw what happened and rushed in to save her. Inside, he found them surrounded, so he quickly wiped out the flies. Nadi and the shop manager helped him, and they all fought off the swarm together. The manager used magic since he was an elf. When Sato finally stepped outside, he found the city had been cleared of flies, and the soldiers had done a great job. Zena told him she had to work on her day off because of what happened. She had hoped to spend the day with him, but duty never ends. That night, the innkeeper held a feast to thank Sato and the whole team for saving the city. She prepared all kinds of dishes, and they ate until they were completely full. Sato went out for a walk to unwind a bit, but on his way, he was suddenly attacked by a strange person. Without hesitation, Sato pulled out his gun and shot the attacker. When he uncovered his face, he saw it was a strange creature whispering, "Protect the princess." Sato quickly picked him up and took him to Nadi's shop, asking the elf there to treat him. When they checked what he had hidden, they discovered a small princess, also from the elf race. As soon as Sato entered the shop, he found the elf shopkeeper recognizing the girl, who was from his same race, and calling her Mia. He described her like she was something extraordinary. The strange creature that had been carrying and protecting her looked completely exhausted, his face showing clear signs of fatigue and bleeding. Everyone started worrying and wondering what to do. He looked like he was about to die. Nadi stepped in and said she had to go out quickly to look for help, hoping to find someone who could save him. Sato followed her right away. There was no way he'd let her walk alone at night in case someone tried to kidnap her. The next day, he returned to his inn and told Arisa and the others what had happened. He added, "I'll be late today going to visit Nadi. It's something important, and please, I'd rather not be disturbed." He went to the shop and asked Nadi about Mia's condition. She replied, "She's fine now, just a bit drained yesterday from everything that happened." The exhaustion was caused by a lack of magical energy, and they had two options, either buy her a rare, expensive medicine or take her to a special place where she could recharge. Suddenly, Mia woke up, her face full of fear. It was the first time she'd found herself in a strange place. Nadi comforted her and told her that Yursa, the shop owner, was also an elf and would be visiting her soon. When Mia heard the name, she reacted like she had heard it before. Saloo entered calmly, smiled at her and said, "I'm the one who saved you last night." Nadi left them for a bit, saying she'd prepare something to eat, and left the two alone. Saloo sat and talked to her, opening different topics, and asked her, "What's the deal with the spirits that stay with the elf race?" She replied innocently, "I don't know." Every time he started a conversation, she gave one-word answers and cut it short. But the moment he stood up to leave, she said, "Don't go, stay with me." So he did, sitting with her a while longer like she wanted. When he returned to the inn, he found the girls gathered around, learning to read using the cards he'd bought for them. He encouraged them and sat with them, telling them about Mia and the mouse creature who protected her. The moment they heard the word princess, their eyes sparkled, and they started begging him to take them to see her. After relentless nagging, he gave in and took them to the shop just like they wanted. Every time he tried to leave, he found Mia clinging to his clothes, saying, "Don't go," clearly attached to him in a way he didn't understand. He hadn't done anything to deserve such attachment, or so he thought. Later, Nadi asked to speak to him privately. She said, "You haven't been working for a while, even though you said you're a merchant. And where's your cart? The one any merchant should have." He replied, "My cart was destroyed, and the horses ran off when the meteors fell." Nadi said, "No worries. I've got a deal for you worth 1,000,000 coins. A merchant is selling his cart for half the price. It's a nice one, and comes with 2 horses too." But Saloo told her, "I might be a merchant, but I've never driven a cart before or even ridden a horse." At that point, Lulu jumped in and said, "I've driven a 1-horse cart before. I can teach you how to handle 2. Or I can drive it if you want." He liked the idea and gave Nadi a down payment to reserve the cart. He let her keep the rest. Then, he decided to take the girls out camping. They had been stuck inside the inn too long and needed a change of scenery. They went to the location, set up the tents, and while he was boiling tea, a loud whistling sound startled everyone. They thought the world was ending, but he reassured them, "That's just the water boiling, everyone. It's totally normal. Don't worry." Arisa suddenly turned into a science teacher and explained why water whistles when it boils. Saloo watched them like a proud father watching his kids. Suddenly, a few beastkin, the same ones Saloo had helped before, showed up. This time, they brought extra food and gave it to Saloo as thanks. He was happy but unsure whether to accept the food. They were poor and might need it more. In the end, he did a trade. Each of them got meat in exchange for the fruit they brought. Afterward, he went out to train with Lulu on how to drive the cart. Nadi told him, "Why don't you take Mia and return her to her village?" He replied, "We'll think about that later. Right now, I just need to learn how to drive." He rode with Lulu and said, "I'm counting on you." Lulu was nervous and very shy, so he said, "Relax, I'm like your big brother. Just think of me as family." That loosened her up, and she started talking and talking until he finally said, "All right, that's enough chatting. Let's focus. It's time to learn seriously. You're giving me a headache here." She handed him the reins and taught him how to move the horse. As night fell and they were riding, Saloo felt something strange, a gut feeling that something wasn't right, making his mind race. A carriage passed by them, and an owl perched on a tree suddenly flew and landed on the passing carriage. The atmosphere grew tense, but in the end, they reached the inn safely, where Mia was waiting to welcome them, finally feeling better thanks to the medicine Nadi and the manager had bought for her. That's when Saloo decided to celebrate her recovery. He asked Mia what she wanted to eat. She told him a specific dish, and he happily told the girls, "Go buy a big batch of it. We're having a party." But while he was getting things ready for the celebration, he felt something strange. Red eyes appeared and vanished in front of him. He turned around to find the same owl he hadn't trusted, its eyes now glowing bright red. He rushed back to the shop and found Mizo, the mouse who had been protecting Mia. He thanked him for saving her and began telling him about the princess, that she had been kidnapped by a group of lizard men, escaped, and met Mizo the Red Shield, who rescued her. They had been heading to Saloo to meet the manager, and thanks to Sato, they finally did. But before the story continued, loud screaming came from the girls. Sato rushed downstairs to find them terrified by the sound of thunder. He comforted them and told them not to be afraid, but noticed Tama staring intently at something. He followed her gaze and saw the owl that had been watching them transform into a completely different creature, a terrifying, monster-like being. And suddenly, out of nowhere, a terrifying, evil creature appeared and used mental magic on them, freezing everyone in place as if time had stopped. No one could move or even blink. Arisa, too, was trying to use her resistance magic to avoid falling under its control. Suddenly, Sato focused intensely, flipped the mental table in his mind, and activated the resistance skill he had recently unlocked. For the first time, he was able to think freely without the creature influencing him. But as he stood there, a strange name popped into his head, Zane. He kept asking himself, where did I hear that name before? Why did I connect it to the creature in front of me. Then the creature moved toward Mia, gave her a strange look, and confidently said, I came to take you back. Sato calmly stood in his way and politely replied, my name is Sato, and I'm just a simple merchant. The creature laughed wickedly and said, the way you speak and stand still shows you're not just a simple merchant. But no matter, as long as you don't interfere, I'm taking Mia and leaving. But Sato said with calm yet deadly seriousness, this girl is like a friend to me, a little sister, and she's not going anywhere unless she wants to. That's when the creature got irritated, the tension rising. Sato decided there was no option but violence. He charged in and hit the creature in the stomach with full force. But the punch went right through him, as if he were a shadow with no body. Sato fell to the ground. The creature didn't hold back. He tossed Sato into the air and slammed him to the floor like a savage. Arisa went berserk with anger and shouted, how dare you hit my master, you monster! She used her magic and cast a strong spell that actually hurt him. The creature became even more furious and yelled, how dare you compare me to a weak human like that? He declared he would take Mia by force and said if they had any sense, they'd hand her over to avoid trouble. That's when Mia decided to surrender to her fate. She told them to run and not worry about her. But Arisa replied bravely, we're not risking our lives to save you out of pity. We're doing it because you mean a lot to Sato. She told Sato to step back, and she prepared a more powerful and violent spell. She launched it at the monster. It was so strong her hair changed color. But even that didn't affect him. Even the magic blasts passed right through him and hit the wall behind. The monster, now fed up, said, I warned you all more than once, and none of you listened. He grabbed Mia, opened a strange portal, and pulled her through. The portal began to close slowly. Sato told Nadi to stay with Arisa and decided to enter the portal to save Mia. He dove in at the very last second before it shut. Suddenly, he found himself in an empty world, like space with absolutely nothing. His energy started to drain one bit at a time. He felt like he was going to die. If things continued this way, he was done for. Worse still, there was no map to guide him. The place was sealed off in all directions. But suddenly, everything changed. The world around him shifted and became clearer. He saw Mia sitting on a chair with an elf beside her, caring for her. The monster came down some stairs. Looking very surprised, the creature stared at him and said in disbelief, how did you escape my mental prison? That's not something just anyone can do. Anyone who survives that could fight the eternal king himself. But Sato didn't care. He ran straight ahead to save Mia. But the world transformed again, the surroundings scrambling. Suddenly, he found himself in a very high place, facing a huge tree and a bridge he needed to cross to reach it. Despite his fear, he walked across the bridge, defeated flying monsters using his magic pistol, and made it inside the tree. There, he found a map and began analyzing it, learning about the areas within the tree. He moved to a chamber containing the tree's spirit. He opened the door and found the forest fairy sleeping. She woke up to his voice, and he told her he was supposed to fight her to pass. But she replied, I'm tired and need some magic points. If you give them to me, I'll open the path myself. He agreed immediately, gave her the points, and she opened the path for him, even thanking him for his help. He continued forward and entered a lab with writing in the elf language. From the writing, he understood the lab belonged to Mia's family and the shop manager. After that, he returned to the fairy and told her he didn't like this place and wanted to escape to somewhere else. She didn't know how to help but suggested, if you can defeat the guardian of this place, maybe you can get out. He agreed, and she sent him to the 100th floor. There, he met 3 girls who congratulated him on reaching this stage and told him that if he won here, one wish might come true. One of them attacked him, but she turned out to be really weak. One hit and she collapsed in pain. He felt bad for her and carried her to a safe spot. After that, he entered another room that looked like the first fairy's chamber, but found the fairy collapsed on the floor, looking drained. He thought she was dead, so he splashed some water on her. She woke up and said, thank you for your energy. He was shocked. It was the same fairy he met on the first floor. She told him, there are many versions of me. We're all connected. He asked her to take him to the highest place in the tree. She told him the farthest she could get him was the 180th floor. There, he found a world full of flying insects and began blasting them away. After clearing them out, he opened a huge hole in the tree, saw the world from above, and continued climbing, floor after floor, until he reached the top. And there, he found Mia and the monster waiting. The creature congratulated him on reaching so fast and said, if you beat me in battle, I'll give you the sacred magic sword of the hero. Sato agreed. But then the monster summoned an army of his followers to fight him. He said, the title of hero isn't for those who ask for it, it's for those who earn it. Then the creature took Mia and climbed to a higher place in the tree, leaving Sato alone in a terrifying battlefield. This hellish epic isn't just a battle, it's a battle in hell itself. Our honorable man Sato, after after entering a life-or-death challenge inside the Tree of Life, found himself surrounded by an entire army of female warriors loyal to the monster, over 100 of them. And the guy, being polite and kind, couldn't bring himself to hit them. I mean, they were girls after all, it just didn't feel right. But when he realized they were seriously trying to take him down, he said, "Fine then," and flipped the table. He punched one, launched the second, dodged the third, a sequence of action scenes that felt like a Bollywood movie but with an insane anime budget. But the cuteness wouldn't last. Once he got serious, he threw morals aside, broke through his hesitation, and started knocking them down one after another until they couldn't even stand. One more hit and they'd be begging him to stop. Still, he didn't finish them off. Instead, he tried to reason with them, telling them that their beloved master was a monster who didn't care about their lives or deaths, and all this would only lead to failure and ruin. The girls were furious. How dare he talk about their master like that? They gathered a massive amount of arrows and launched them all at once. But Saloo acted like nothing happened. He dodged them all with incredible precision. One of the girls tried to show off her skills, launching attack after attack, but by the fourth strike, her sword flew out of her hands and she collapsed from exhaustion. Another gave it everything she had, placing her sword in front of her, trying to push forward. Saloo calmly grabbed the tip of the sword and tossed it aside. She too fell to the ground. The battle was over, and Saloo stood there thinking, that was way too easy. He advanced to the next floor, where the monster who'd been waiting greeted him. The monster said, "You really are worthy of the challenge. Here's the sword I promised." Saloo stood there, confused, and asked, "What exactly do you want?" The monster began telling his tragedy. He had once been an ordinary man with friends, living a good life, but then a rich man fell in love with his wife, framed him, and had him executed, cutting off the heads of his entire family before his eyes. His wife also died in front of him. The monster explained that he came back to life, but in a hideous form, and no one could free him from his suffering. That's when people started calling him the Eternal King of Night. All he wanted now was to die with dignity. He told Saloo, "Use the sacred sword and end my pain, please." Saloo drew the glowing blue sword and pierced the monster's body. In a powerful, dramatic moment, the monster's soul left his body and thanked Saloo, saying, "You've won this time. Thank you." The moment the soul disappeared, the giant crystal inside the tree turned red, and the system sent a message. Self-destruct sequence initiated. Escape before everything explodes. Saloo dashed with Mia like they were in a race trying to escape. He shook her awake and asked if there was a way to stop the explosion. Mia tried touching a device next to the throne, but nothing worked. Then she got a message from the system saying she could exit in 1 minute. So Saloo picked her up and placed her with the girls he had fought earlier, so they could all return together to their world. But suddenly, he remembered one of the girls he had left unconscious outside the forest fairy's room. He told Mia, "You go with the others. I'll bring the last girl." He dug a hole at lightning speed, descended, picked up the girl, and returned to the fairy. He asked if there was a way out. The fairy coldly replied, "Bring me seeds. I'll grow them and send you out." He pulled some from his bag. She gave him a look and said, "I need 3 times this amount." So he poured out everything he had. In a flash, she opened a portal and let him escape the tree. But before he could celebrate, a giant wave of salty water surrounded the tree and spread like monsters. Saloo ran with all his might, but couldn't use his teleport skill. So he thought fast and decided to unleash a massive fire using the meteors. It worked. He vaporized the wave. A genius move by Saloo. He finally reached the girls, who were terrified and crying for him. He apologized, and Mia thanked him. All the monster's former followers thanked him, too, for fulfilling their master's final wish. They said, "From today, we follow you." They handed him their master's ring and asked him to bury it next to his wife's grave. Saloo agreed and asked one of the girls to stay with him as his aide. He named her Nana. After this intense adventure, he returned to the city, only to find Zena running to him in tears, telling him she'd heard he was kidnapped and was about to search for him herself. He comforted her and gave her the gift he had bought for her during the day of the performance. Then he said, "I'm going to take Mia back to her village, so I'll be gone for a while. Please don't worry, I'll be fine." He left in his cart with the team he couldn't do without. But as they moved, Zena caught up to him on her horse and said, "I won't ask to come with you, but when my brother comes of age this spring, I'll be free, and I'll wait for your return." He was thrilled by her words, said goodbye, and the girls tried to cheer him up after parting with Zena. As they traveled along a road that seemed endless, the feeling of boredom became unbearable. They were about to throw themselves out of the cart. That's when they decided to take a break and cook. And they really did, preparing a feast that would make anyone hungry, filled with every type of food imaginable. But in the middle of all the excitement, Mia just stared at the food like she was seeing something strange. She didn't eat or even speak. Saloo noticed and said to her, "What do you mean you're not eating? "We're not on a diet here. We're on an adventure and a long journey." Mia calmly replied that elves don't eat meat. Sato looked at the meat plate, swallowed hard, and said, "Well, that means the meal we put so much effort into won't impress her." But instead of getting upset or saying anything rude, he respectfully made her a special dish, meat-free, as if she were a real princess, not just a lost girl they were escorting home. After the meal, he even washed the dishes himself like he was their servant, not the other way around. Suddenly, Liza started preparing another meal different from the one they just made. Sato said, "That's too much. No one can eat all this." Liza replied seriously, "It's for later. The road is long. We could get hungry at any time." Sato nodded and said, "All right then, whatever you say." After that, he left them for a bit to wander and look around. He began admiring the nature surrounding him, as if he were seeing the world for the first time. He stood there and said to himself, "Am I really starting to get attached to this place? I don't think I'll be able to leave it so easily, especially with the girls around me making me feel like they're my own children." He looked at Mia and saw that she was regaining the energy she'd lost before being kidnapped. She seemed more at ease now, which calmed his heart. But suddenly, Arisa surprised him and said the straw pillows she made were awful, and sleeping on them broke her back. Sato laughed and said, "All right, come on then, let's fix them together instead of complaining." He called the girls, and they all gathered like they were in a sewing workshop. Everyone joined in with excitement. Sato started sewing the leather around the straw at lightning speed, but unfortunately, he realized he forgot to tie the thread. The whole thing unraveled in seconds. They all looked at him with disappointed eyes, but he calmly said, "No worries, we'll start again from the beginning." And they did, finishing it even better than before. At that moment, Sato decided to use the leftover leather and straw to make creative shapes, dolls and toys to make them happy. He discovered new skills in himself he didn't even know he had. He made a beautiful doll and gave it to Mia, but Nana snatched it and said, "I really like this one." Sato laughed and told Mia, "I'll make you an even better one. Don't worry." They continued the journey, and time passed. The weather grew more exhausting, and the horses looked like they were about to collapse. Sato looked at Mia and said, "When she was a princess, she probably wasn't used to all these bumps. We need to slow down a bit." He told Tama and Bachi to go out and play, and to explore the rocks along the road for fun. Arisa got upset and insisted on going with them. Liza came and said, "We've taken too many breaks. We're wasting time." Sato replied, "Just 5 minutes. Let me finish thinking, then we'll go." Suddenly, while standing there, he heard enchanting music, like something out of a movie. He turned around and saw Mia and Nana sitting down. Mia was holding a leaf and playing it, producing an incredibly beautiful melody. The girls all gathered around her to learn. Everyone was amazed by her technique. Sato decided to try it too, but unfortunately, the sound he made was like a strangled cat. Mia took the leaf from him and laughed. Arisa said, "Come with me. I need to talk to you about something important." She walked with him into the forest and showed him a shrine hidden among the trees. As soon as Sato saw it, his eyes sparkled. Suddenly, he felt pulled into another world. Images flashed in his mind. A girl with colorful hair speaking incomprehensible words. He felt like he was in a different body, younger, in memories that weren't his. He almost passed out from the dizziness. But Arisa's voice brought him back just in time before he fainted and fell. They returned to camp and found the girls all messy, like they'd just come back from battle. Sato asked Mia if there was any magic to clean them. She said she didn't know, so he decided to cook for them, and they sat down to eat together while he zoned out, thinking about what he saw. At that moment, he realized that Zane's monster skills had transferred to him. He could now craft custom spells like he had a magic lab inside his brain. Suddenly, a cart passed by them. Sato saw it and told Lulu, "Stop right now." He got out quickly and found the other cart was carrying the Mouse Tribe, followers of 100, who had been looking for her for a long time. As soon as they saw her, they ran to her and were overjoyed. Sato reassured them that she was fine, and they told him they had to keep moving but were leaving her in his care. He replied, "Don't worry, we'll catch up with you soon." After they left, Sato decided to go hunting with the girls. They successfully caught a deer, cooked it together, and everyone ate happily. Sato began experimenting with his new skills and discovered he could turn his thoughts into spells, as if he now had a real magical laboratory inside his head. After a long day, they finally reached the area where the Mouse Tribe lived. Mia walked down to the grave where the mice who defended her were buried. She said goodbye in a very emotional moment, then continued the journey with Sato and the rest, everyone's eyes full of determination and resolve, as if what lay ahead would be far more dangerous than anything they had faced before. After that, they arrived arrived at a city, and Sato went out on his own for a bit to enjoy himself. He entered a restaurant, spoiled himself, ordered a ton of food, sat down and dug in. He even left a tip. When he saw people arguing because the prices were sky high and no one could afford to pay, he invited everyone in the restaurant. Order whatever you want, it's on me. Naturally, everyone was impressed, thinking he was a rich man. Even the girls started clinging to him, not wanting to leave him alone. But he respected himself, left the restaurant politely, and returned to his group, telling them all about his peaceful, drama-free day. By coincidence, while riding his cart, he saw a man on horseback beating two innocent poor people. He stared at the man, trying to remember where he'd seen that face before. Liza responded, "We saw him when we were selling the monster cores we had collected. He tried to scam us out of their price." Sato jumped out of the cart and went to help the poor couple. One man had a broken arm, and the woman with him didn't know what to do. Sato handed him a high-grade magical potion, very expensive, and gave it to him. The man was healed instantly, and they showered Sato with gratitude, saying, "We don't even know how to thank you. What can we do for you?" He said, "It's nothing really, it wasn't a big deal." Arisa looked him up and down and said, "Since when did you become so generous? You've been throwing money left and right. You should really hold back, especially with the magic potions. We'll definitely need them eventually, and we might not have any left when that time comes." Sato realized she had a point, so he decided to learn magical alchemy and make the potions himself in case he ever needed them again. The very next day, he wasted no time. He laid out all the materials he had on the table. He followed the instructions in his book, tried once, then twice. He failed. The third time came close to working, but still failed. Eventually, he produced something close to what he wanted. But he discovered that for a potion to be magical, it had to be stored in specific enchanted bottles. Those bottles were nearly gone, and his resources were running low too. So he decided he would travel to the nearest city, Noki, to buy the supplies he needed. At night, he trained with some magic weapons and invented a new tool that could absorb magical energy. He tested it with Arisa, but it ended up draining his energy instead. He tossed it away quickly, and Arisa congratulated him sarcastically on his useless invention. The next day, he approached the city he had wanted to visit. But when he analyzed the map before entering, he noticed several parts were missing. There were areas inside the city he knew nothing about. Still, he decided to go in and find out for himself. He asked around for an alchemy shop where he could buy supplies. They told him there was one at the end of the street. He followed the directions and was about to enter when a crazed man stormed out, shouting angrily, "Get out of my way!" Then Sato entered the shop and asked the girl working there for some materials. But she told him they were experiencing a severe shortage of everything he had asked for. Even the last available item had just been bought by the man who left before him, who purchased a huge quantity of enchanted bottles. So he left the shop empty-handed and told Liza, "Go back and stay with the girls. I've got a place to visit and will join you soon." That night, he returned to the shop in disguise and asked the girl to bring him some magic scrolls. With these scrolls, he'd be able to cast magic freely, without being trained or having the spells memorized. Then he went off to explore the areas that were erased from the map. He walked into the forest, and at first, everything seemed perfectly fine, nothing unusual at all. And then he started to feel like he was being watched or surrounded. He wasn't comfortable at all, until suddenly, he passed through a transparent gate without even noticing it. Out of nowhere, a little girl appeared with some mechanical guards who started attacking him. He quickly stopped them and said to the girl, "I'm sorry for stepping into your private area. I didn't know. I'm not a bad person." But the girl was still scared and called for her mistress. Her mistress arrived, riding a giant bird that almost squashed the girl as it landed. Then, an old woman descended from the bird, approached Sato, and, contrary to what he expected, apologized for her apprentice's rude behavior. She introduced herself as the sorceress in charge of the mana source in the Forest of Illusions. She took him to her home and explained that her apprentice attacked him because she thought he was a messenger sent by the elves, because of the small bell hanging from his clothes. He corrected her and explained that the bell was a gift from an elf friend, and he wasn't anyone's messenger. She believed him, since it was clear from his appearance that he wasn't an elf. Then, Nini, the girl who attacked him, entered and apologized sincerely, saying, "I didn't mean to. I misunderstood everything." She told the old woman that she was going back to work. The old woman explained to Sato that their job involved delivering 300 magical potions twice a year to the count of their city, in exchange for protection from thieves and hunters. Sato told the old sorceress that he was really interested in potion making, and had only started learning a couple of days ago. She encouraged him and said she would teach him a very special potion that would be useful for his journey. He was thrilled and agreed immediately, asking her to teach him quickly. She guided him through the process, and he later left, thanking her for everything. She asked, "Will you find your way back alone, or will you get lost in the forest?" He replied, "Don't worry, I've got a map." She still wanted to be sure, so she used a light spell to illuminate the entire forest and guide him along the path. Afterward, he returned to the city, where he had arranged to meet a man to craft special potion bottles. He went to meet him, but the man was late, and while waiting, he overheard two masked men speaking quietly nearby. Curiosity got the best of him, so he eavesdropped and heard one of them talking about attending a meeting where he planned to take over the city. Saloo thought to himself, this must be some bored rich guy with nothing better to do. He finally met with the man he'd been waiting for and asked him to make a decent quantity of magic bottles. The man told him those bottles were restricted. They were distributed evenly among merchants and not for private manufacturing. Before they could reach an agreement, the girls barged in and said, "You're past your bedtime. It's time to sleep now." Saloo felt embarrassed in front of the man and left with them. By coincidence, he ran into Nini, who was delivering the magical potions. Some bandits started chasing her, trying to steal them. He rushed in to drive the thieves away and told her to escape quickly. But while fleeing, she accidentally collided with another cart, destroying it along with many of the potions. Only about 150 bottles remained intact. Saloo calmed her and said, "Let's go sell the ones we still have before anything else happens." They went together. The man in charge told her he understood the situation, but the contract still had to be fulfilled. Saloo looked closely at the two men speaking to him and thought, yeah, those are definitely the same two from the restaurant, the ones whispering earlier. He asked if they could give her a bit of time so he could buy potions himself to make up for the shortfall. The count replied, "The contract clearly says the potions must come from the sorceress herself." But Saloo realized from the way he said it that he was bluffing and trying to sabotage the deal. So he said, "I know for sure there's nothing in the contract that says that. So if I bring you potions that are even better than the sorceress's, you wouldn't accept them." The count became visibly nervous and said, "Fine, as long as the quality is the same." Saloo agreed and left to prepare the necessary materials. But Nini pointed out that even if they made the potion, they didn't have enough bottles to hold them. That's when Saloo remembered the girl at the alchemy shop saying someone had just bought a massive batch of bottles. He suddenly felt like there was a conspiracy or something strange going on, so he sat thinking hard. What do I do? What do I do? Then he remembered the man he originally contacted to make the bottles. He rushed over to him with the girls and asked him to produce 180 bottles by the next morning. The man replied, 180 bottles by morning? You're asking for a miracle. That's impossible. I won't make it in time. Saloo said, I know you can't finish them. That's why I'm asking to rent your workshop and equipment for the night. I'll make the bottles myself. The man replied, you must be crazy, but it looks like you have a good reason. Fine, I'll let you use the workshop tonight, even though I doubt you'll make it in time. It's your call. Despite the man's pessimism, Saloo thanked him and inspired his team, assigning each girl a task. They all entered the workshop, full of hope and optimism that they could finish on time. They began shaping the bottles out of clay, but the girls failed miserably. The bottles were crooked and unusable, except for Saloo, who managed to make a large batch of bottles in a short time. Even the workshop owner was surprised. How is this your first time? He asked. Saloo smiled and said, I've always been good with my hands. The man shot him down again, saying, okay, fine, but keep in mind, these bottles take at least 5 days to dry before they can go in the kiln. Saloo's face dropped. 5 days to dry? The man added, maybe more, depending on how thick they are. You never know. Saloo said, there must be a way. He started thinking again, and suddenly remembered the magical spellbook he inherited from Zena. He quickly opened it and found a spell that could dry clay faster. He ran to Mia and asked her to memorize and cast the spell on one of the bottles. The result? The bottle dried in less than a minute. The shop owner was shocked. There's a spell for that? Saloo proudly said, nothing is impossible for me. If I make a promise, I keep it. Then he went out to buy a few things, returned to the workshop, and helped Nini prepare the potion itself. After a few hours, they were nearly done, until the count's assistant arrived and said, what are you doing? Don't you know making this type of bottle is prohibited? The workshop owner replied, yes, we know, but that's only if we're selling them. These are for personal use. The assistant said, I don't care. What you're doing is a crime, and you'll pay for it. And instead of fining or arresting them, he smashed the kiln, the bottles, and all the work they had done. Everyone stood there in shock, staring at the mess. Their entire day's work destroyed. The shop owner apologized. He felt sorry for them, but said, there's nothing I can do. Nini sat crying. Saloo said he needed needed to have a word with the magical bird on her head. Then he saw Arisa sitting on the floor, upset, surrounded by broken bottles. He looked at her and said, "What, you think I'm just some random guy? Didn't I tell you to trust me?" She replied, "I don't get what you mean." He said, "The broken bottles lying here are the ones Nini smashed this morning. I hid the ones we made in a safe place. These were just for show in case something happened. I had a feeling the Count might try something shady." Arisa was amazed and said, "You've got to teach me how to be sneaky like that. I totally believed you." Sato said, "All right, enough sulking. Come on, let's load the real bottles into the kiln." But the kiln was broken, so they had to use just a small part of it. They tried firing a test bottle, but it shattered instantly. As expected, the temperature inside was unstable due to the damage. Sato sat down again, thinking, what now? Then he remembered that miracle book. He opened it and found a method. Using some clever tricks, he figured out a way to finish the batch on time. He and Arisa locked themselves in a room and finished all the bottles they needed. Everyone outside was on edge. When Sato and Arisa finally came out, they looked upset. Everyone asked, "How did it go?" But then the two of them grinned and announced the good news. They did it. They'd finished the potion delivery on time, and they were going to teach the Count and his assistant a lesson in honor and integrity. They loaded everything up and delivered the potions to the royal castle before the deadline. They gave the Count all the potions, and he counted them. Sato then asked him to sign a document confirming that the potions were delivered on time. But the Count stalled, refusing to sign. The sun was setting, and the day was almost over. Sato kept pushing, saying, "Come on, sign it. We delivered on time." But the Count kept delaying. Everyone was tense, unsure of what to do, until help arrived. The king himself appeared and said, "I'll sign it." He fired the Count from his position, explaining that the old sorceress had told him everything about the evil Count's schemes. The Count snapped, "How can this happen to me?" In a rage, he attacked the king with a spell, but the king blocked it effortlessly and said, "I actually pity you. You're a fool. How could someone in your position believe that spell would kill me? In my land, in my home." The king drew his sword, ready to strike, but Sato stepped in and knocked out both the Count and his assistant. The king asked, "Why did you interfere?" Sato made up an excuse. "There are kids here. They shouldn't see blood." But inside, he was just thrilled to finally get the chance to punch that guy. It was personal. Afterward, he left the palace and said goodbye to the old sorceress, Nini, and the shop owner. They all thanked him. The old sorceress gave him a magical lantern as a gift. The shop owner said, "The king is going to build me a bigger lab and a wider kiln. Business is going to boom." Sato was genuinely happy for them and said his final farewells before continuing his journey. A long time passed, and Sato still hadn't reached Mia's village. He suddenly thought of Zena and decided to write her a letter. When Zena saw it, she went wild. "Finally, Sato's acknowledging me after such a long absence." She opened the letter in front of her friends and read Sato's romantic words, how he missed her, how he couldn't believe winter had passed without seeing her even once, and that one day they would reunite and be together forever, just like they promised. She closed the letter with a smile on her face and hope in her heart, waiting for the moment Sato would return to her.